All right, everyone, welcome back to our stream. Today is 6th of April, and today is going to be a very exciting day because today is the day where we actually get our first baseline for our DQN model. So let's take a look at how is our run 52 doing. So I have restarted this run this morning, unfortunately, because of a memory leak issue. I fixed that already, so this is how the graph is looking like right now. So you can see here our loss is reducing and then it started picking up a little bit, which shows that something is wrong with the model or the reward function. And then in terms of the queue, it's actually really interesting. I don't think I've ever seen this kind of graphs before, even though I only work on DQN once before. It's like it's going upstairs, right? It's like it's up, 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 up again, and then the queue is keep on increasing. I don't really have an explanation on why this looks like this. I have a few guesses, but I guess they are proven wrong. The first guess is that it's able to reach the high reward state, which is 100, right? And then once it reach 100, then it sort of back propagates the Q value back to all the previous states. That's why the Q start jumping up. But actually, I don't see actually any reward as 100, right? I don't actually see them like correspondingly here. So I'm not exactly sure if that is the case. Let me quickly do a check. Okay, it does seem like it's possible because here they have one very high one, and then at here is around about step 323, and here if you look at step 323, there does seems to be a very high one around here. But then again, there's a very high one here, but it didn't jump up. So I'm not too sure if it's related to the reward of 100. Yeah, so this is the round 52 that we have. You can see the reward is pretty stable at around -20. Sometimes we surviving until round 400, sometimes not, and it's not really improving, right? We can see here the performance is not really improving. It has been stagnated since reaching like this point, right? It's gone up here, but then it come down again. So I think this is very close to a baseline, or maybe I would even call this a baseline one actually. I think I'm happy to call this our baseline V1, simply because it's it's okay, it's quite stable, it's not doing something that's off the charts, right? So I'm gonna call this our baseline V1, but I have a lot of ideas on how this thing is not why this thing is not working, right? So here are some ideas that I think I'm gonna implement in this stream so that we can further improve on this baseline. But one thing I realized, it's not winning a lot of games, so that's probably because it's not exploring enough states. So the other reason why it's not winning game is probably because of the reward for ships is too high. So gonna need to do a few adjustments so that it start actually winning games by getting a high core count at the end instead of building too many ships, right? So I'm gonna increase the exploration by giving a higher starting epsilon so that it explores further. I'm gonna lower the decay frame so that we get the result faster. And of course, we need to lower the reward for ship. So previously, we increased the reward for ship because it wasn't doing well. But later, we realized it wasn't doing well because of another reason, not the lack of reward for ships, right? So we fixed that. So now we can drop the reward for ships to a lower value. Also, we can try to have a penalty for not having enough ships, right? So this will gradually move our loss reward to -20. What I mean by this is that, if you look at some of these rounds, right, it was actually getting for example, this round, it's getting 11 rewards here, and then suddenly it becomes like -100, right? So it's not a smooth transition here from this state to this state. I feel like I need to tell the model that this is gonna lose, so you don't assign a high reward for this state, right? So the one way to do it is to give a penalty for not having enough ships. Again, for this one, it only has 7 ships, so I should assign a penalty for this kind of situation, so that the reward state action state action pair and the Q value is a gradual smooth curve, not suddenly jumping up and down, right? And then I'm gonna lower the end game win or lose reward, because now you can see the description is quite high. It's like -100 and this is 12. It's quite a big jump. Also, I'm gonna try to divide the strategy into smaller ones, making it strategy more naive. Sorry, naive. I guess I will mainly want to do like mine small and mine medium, but I guess that's not necessary at this stage, because I think that's a riskier move, because now I might screw things up even more. So I'm not gonna try it today. Today I'm just gonna focus on these 5 optimizations, or rather improvements to our baseline model, so that it becomes better. Okay, so the first thing first, I'm gonna have to unfortunately stop this training right here. It's doing well. I think it's done its job already. So actually I'm gonna add this to our baseline, right? So we're gonna create a new folder called models baseline, right? And then I'm gonna copy over the model 52 here, and it's gonna be our first baseline. Okay, 52v1, right? So this is gonna be our new baseline. I'm gonna add it to our repository, and then I'm gonna call it a DQN baseline v1, right? So this is our first baseline, and we have the graphs here to kind of compare it with other models that we're gonna develop today, right? So the new model, I'm gonna call it maybe 53, right? So let's start by working on each one of these problems. So I'm gonna give it a higher starting epsilon, so that's very, very, very easy. It shouldn't take more than 1 minute. Let's go to the DQN agent here, and I'm gonna go to config, and I'm gonna increase the epsilon init to 0.4. So this gives it a higher random chance at the beginning. I'm also gonna lower the decaying frame, so that we get the result faster, right? We get to the end state faster. So instead of having 1 million, we're gonna have it 500k. So this will like shorten our training period by half, so that we get our result much faster. Of course, it will lead to lower performance, but I think at this stage, I want to get the result faster. Then I care about the performance, right? So this is what I'm gonna do. So these two are already done. I'm gonna lower the reward for ships. This one is very, very easy. Just gonna come here and change our reward function factor, right? So we have a core reward factor here. I'm gonna increase the core reward to 1 and lower the ship count reward to 1.5. Right? So this will kind of negate that problem. Ship count log should be multiplied by 10. I feel like. Let me see here. Ship count delta. Okay, ship count delta reward. It's correct. Okay. Actually, the ship count is multiplied by 10, right? I feel like. Let me do a quick check here. I feel like ship count should be multiplied by 10. Let's do a quick check. Yeah, here the reward actually dropped because the ship count is considered less, right? This is interesting. Okay, we'll just tune it a little bit and see what happens. Right? So we change this from 0.5 to 1. This changed from 2 to 1.5. So this should skew it towards the core rather than the ship feel like this is reasonable. I'm just gonna keep it. And then we're gonna have a penalty for not having enough shifts. So I think this one is super critical. Super critical, right? Okay, so we're gonna introduce some penalty here. Do we have penalty already? Oh, we don't have any penalties. So this is gonna be the first penalty that we're gonna introduce. Right. So penalty for not enough shift count. Okay. I think that's enough bullshit from the GitHub Copilot. So we have the ship count here, which is the raw ship count, right? Let's see what's a good number of ship count to have as a penalty. $59 still lost. Size 83. Okay, 26. Okay. I think let's try something simple first. If ship count is less than 50, then ship count penalty is -1. Right? Okay, so maybe put it here. Ship count 50 -1. If ship count is less than 20, then it's gonna be -2. This penalty is very light. It's very light. Very light penalty here. I feel like we should be more aggressive. -2, -5. So this way we kind of gear it towards the lost situation here. So we can try this on a few scenarios, right? So for example, this case, it only has 18, so it's gonna receive a penalty of -5, right? So instead of 10.5 reward here, it's gonna only get 5, and it's gonna put it closer to -100 than 10, right? So that's the idea that we have here. So we're gonna plus the penalty. We use plus because the penalty itself is minus. So we always want to keep the formula here to be positive, so that it's easier to reason about. I think previously I used a lot of positive, plus, minus, and things got really messy. So I'm just gonna keep it all positive here and make the penalty self-negative. Right? So that's already done. And we're gonna lower the reward or loss penalty. Right? I feel like win penalty could still be there, like quite high, but we definitely need to change the loss penalty a little bit. Right, so the win reward is currently 100. Let's see if that makes sense. So currently, if you stay until the end, you're gonna get a reward which is 50, which is quite high actually. I feel like 50 is maybe a little bit too high, right? Let's see another few sample data. So here we have 20 and jump to 50. Maybe we can search for turn 400. This is 20, 14, 27, 25, 28. Oh, this one is 28 actually. Okay, this one is pretty good. 18, 8, 23, 27. Okay, so it's about always less than 40, I think. It has always been less than 40, so 50 is a little bit too much of a jump. I feel like I could reduce it to like 40. I feel it's good enough, right? And then for the win, we're gonna make it like much higher. Just honestly, I haven't seen any games that was won, right? Let's try to search for a game that is actually won. So that will be 100. 0 here, and then a slash here. Oh, okay. Actually, we won some game here. We won one game here. Right, so that's gonna give us 100. I feel that's fair. 100. Maybe 100 is a little bit too much still. So I'm going to give it 60. Right, so 60 is lower, but still significantly higher than the other things, right? Okay. And for the loss, of course, I don't want it to be negative 100. That's way too harsh. That's too harsh. The change is too drastic, right? So I think I'm gonna give it definitely a negative number to differentiate it between losing and winning, but not so high, right? So I'm actually gonna give it a negative 10. So it's definitely different from having rewards, but it's not so drastic that it mess up our loss function. I think this is a good compromise here. Of course, this is subject to tuning if I see something completely wrong here. But I think it's a good tuning to be done. So yeah, that's all the things I want to change. For now, let's try to run it and see how it goes. Right? So we're gonna run this run 53, and then we're gonna start running this. All right, let's see how it works. Very excited about this. This could be way better than the previous baseline. I'm really super excited about this. And while we're waiting for the initial result, let's check out the leaderboard because it's not doing well. We're not doing well. We're like number 7, and there's some new guy that is doing better than us already. So since they changed to the two player, I think my ranking has been dropping. Partly because all the other people are submitting, submissions like 8 hours ago, 9 hours ago, and the last submission I did was 3 days ago, because I've been training this DQN baseline for the past 3 days and without success, right? So I guess we're kind of losing this beta competition a lot. At this point, I don't think I care too much because I just want to experiment, what we can do with TFJS and DQN for this contest and whether it's suitable for these kind of complex environments, whether the rule-based one is better or the deep learning one is better, right? So that's the key thing that I'm trying out. So I'm not too worried about anything else there. So let's see if this is working as we expected, right? So we have alpha 0.01, 0.95 gamma, this is epsilon, this is batch size, which is correct. Let's see, do we have a penalty here for not having ships? I think we should have it. Let's see. This is 1, this is 0.1, and it's only 10.5. So there is a penalty of there is definitely a penalty applied here because it's looking less than this 2, right? I should have logged a penalty actually. So the next thing I'm gonna improve on is to log the penalties. Right? I forgot to log the penalties, but I think that's a minor problem. Don't need to stop training for now. I think these are all making sense. Okay, this one is a little bit interesting. So the reward is still very high because we have a high core count, right? But actually we don't have enough ship. So this one, the reward is still quite high. I guess it's fine. Hopefully the model is gonna learn that this is actually not that good. So actually you can see this one has a higher reward than this one, right? So I guess it should figure out soon enough to figure out it's not a good thing. All right, so looking at our loss and Q, it seems to be okay. Let's see. Okay, this is looking pretty good so far, although we're only 3k iterations in, looking pretty okay. The starting loss is quite high. I wonder if that's common. Yeah, the starting loss is quite high. So gonna keep a close look on how these two models compare with each other. right? For now, we're just gonna look at this in isolation first. So the model, the loss is dropping pretty fast, and Q is improving smoothly, and our reward is, we don't care about reward at this stage because it's random, right? 0.4 chance of random, 40% chance. So we don't really care about the reward as of now. We just care about whether the trajectory of the graphs are correct. So I think it's looking fine for now, and I'll just leave you guys with this graph changing, and I'm gonna maybe take a break, and let's come back to check this in about 10 to 15 minutes. All right, I'll see you in 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, we're back. Now let's take a look at this graph and see how it's going. The loss is looking good so far. Q is also looking pretty good, although it's starting to line. Turn is looking very good. It's what I would expect. Reward though, on the other hand, is dropping a little bit. I think this is the pure random thingy. And then once our policy, our Q network takes over, it start to drop because it's not able to figure out the best move, right? So I guess that it's to be expected at this stage. Let's not smooth this too much. Right. Okay, so far the graph looks correct. Nothing very wrong. Let's look at the logs. Okay, let's look at the recent log, right? Okay, so this one we actually won. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Oh, actually we won quite a few here. So this one we won with 1 core and 24 ships. So it's gonna get a reward of 40, right? So that's to be expected. It's a big jump from 9 to 40, but I think it's okay. I will accept that. This one we won is with a lot of ships actually, 800 ships. It's 21 to 40, okay. That's interesting, that's interesting. This one we also won with 42 ships and 40. So this one is for jumping from 10 to 40, which I think is fine. That's completely fine. Okay, let's take a look at some of this that we lost. So this one doesn't have 50 ships, so it's got a penalty right here. And then it's losing with -10, which is correct. Here the same thing. It doesn't have 20 ships. It has 20 ships, but okay, so this is a much smaller gap, right, between the previous turn and the turn that it lost compared to, you know, what we have before here. Like before it was pretty drastic, right? You jump from 12 to -100, so the model is not able to comprehend, you know, why such a big change. Whereas this is much more granular, right? From 8 to -10. So the model is kind of able to tell that it was losing before it actually lost, right? So that's a good thing. Look at this again. Not very high core count, but a lot of ships. I feel like because we give a higher weight to ships now, the model is trying to prioritize building ships over collecting core, as you can see here as well. So actually at the end of the game, all the ships are inside, right? So this is something I would actually want to discourage because you are not mining, right? Let me see, 2 is for building ships, I think. Yeah, 2 is for building ships, you know, so 0, 1, 2. I'm gonna give this a label. 2, 3, right? 2 is build ship, so it's trying to build ship towards the end. Which is funny because you're not supposed to build ships at the end, right? You're supposed to actually spend that ship, collect core, right? But I guess at this stage it's just trying to survive, so I wouldn't actually fault the model for trying to build more ship towards the end. I feel like that's acceptable for some for a baseline model that tries to optimize its chance to survival. As you can clearly see here, the building ship strategy actually works because we're also losing ships right here, right? So actually building ship is the better choice in some situation to help us win, right? Like in this case, even though we're building ships, we're still lost because we don't have enough ships, right? So that completely makes sense, I would say, and that actually makes sense. Well, now you can see we're winning a string of games with very little core at the end, only 3, and this one only also 3. This one we have slightly more. Okay, So this one we have 37, this one we have 301. Okay, we're winning a lot of games recently. Yeah, so the reward is about 0, which is actually already better than the previous baseline, right? If we go back to check. Yeah, this should actually be better than the previous baseline already. Let me check. You can see here it's actually about 0, whereas the previous one is about -20, right? So this, I would say, is already better than the previous baseline. Sometimes it's above 0. So yeah, I think we already outperformed the previous baseline. You can see from the turn number here as well, we're already surviving much longer than the previous baseline. The loss and queue you can't really compare because we tuned the reward function a lot. So these two, you can't really compare the numeric values, but I guess you can still compare the trend. The trend looks about the same. So I wouldn't say the less loss is a better model or higher queue is a better model. It all depends on how you design the reward function. So the more important is to get the raw reward. Clearly we're doing better, and the number of turns that we survived, we're also doing much better. Okay, so I guess we have a baseline V2 of some sort. Let's continue, let it run and observe a bit more. Let's see, we think we lost a few games here. Let's see what went wrong. So this is very late into the game, and we didn't have enough ship. I don't know what happened before this. Maybe I need to add more log on the turns that, before it died. We need to figure out why it died. But this is acceptable. This is also acceptable because we have 0 ships. I don't know why it suddenly doesn't have any ships anymore, even though it has 5 shipyards. I think maybe we attacked too aggressively. That's why we lost all the shipyards. So I actually have another one to encode positional information to avoid danger. So this is where I think it's gonna help it avoid these dangerous moves. I think that's something I'm gonna do after we obtain a very stable and decent baseline. Same thing here. There's nothing we could have done. I like that, all these games that we lost, there's not much we could have done towards the end. So it's not like, I can tune this to make it avoid loss, at least until the very end. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. Oh, this one is interesting. This one is built like 2,000 ships actually, and we end up with no cores. So we didn't get the larger reward. We only got the smaller reward. It's quite interesting. This one as well. We built too many ships. This one, there's nothing we could have done. Oh, this one is interesting though. This one is interesting. So this one at turn step 354, it has 25 ships, 19 inside, 9 outside, and it has 1,000 cores, and it decided to take action 0, which is do nothing, right? And then it just lost on the next turn because it lost all 25 ships and the shipyard. So this is where I think the defense is really important. You need to have a better defense. I feel like I should log the... Okay, I need to log turns, maybe 3 turns before dying, right? So that we to figure out why it's died. So this is only 2 turns. I'm not able to figure out what happened before this turn, right? So I need to log 1 more turn to get more information. This one is okay. This one is also okay. There's nothing we could have done. This one is pretty close to the end, but there's nothing we could have done either. This one is a small wing. This one, nothing could have done. This one, again, we didn't build ship. I guess it's tried to build ship, but not enough. We also lost a lot of shipyards, right? So this is where we lost a lot of shipyards and lost. Yeah, I can see a pattern here. It's trying to build more shipyard and usually it's lost. Not usually, but sometimes it lost. In this case, it didn't lose. Oops. Let's see. This one is okay. This one, we only have one shipyard. Lost. Okay. This one is very, very close to making it through, but it lost to 397. I think there's only two more turns until it survived, but didn't make it. I would be really excited to see a game where we won though, but I think I haven't found a game that we won yet. Also bear in mind we still have a epsilon of 36 here, so it has a 36% chance of taking a random move. So that could also explain why we're losing so many games, right? Because it's just randomly the moves gonna mess up, right? For it to explore different states. Yeah, that's a explore versus exploit balance that we have to make, right? So in the beginning, the model is not gonna do so well from a reward perspective. But I'm liking this a lot. I think it's looks much better than the previous baseline that we had in a lot of aspects. So I'm pretty safe to. It's pretty safe for me to say that we have a new baseline here. Let's just put up the graph here. Notwithstanding these two graphs, you can see here the reward is much higher, right? It's much higher. Actually, the new one is consistently above 0, whereas the old one is consistently below 0. So that's the most obvious trend difference there, right? So the new one is surviving, whereas the old one is not surviving. So that's a huge difference in terms of the performance. Right? So I think this is definitely better, and it's consistently doing that, right? It's not just like at one point; it's consistently higher. If you take a look at this graph a little bit closer, you can see it's consistently higher than the yellow one. So definitely a good sign. Similarly, for the turn number, it's consistently higher as well. Yeah. Let me just refresh this page so that these lines are drawn in a better way, I guess. Okay, it doesn't really help, but whatever. Let's smooth this out a little bit more to see the bigger trend here. All right. Even though we have a much higher random chance, we're already doing better. I can't wait for this to drop to below 0.1, 10%, and see how better it's gonna be, right? How much better it's gonna be compared to the old one. Let's see if we actually won any game. So if we won a game, it should be 60. Oh, we haven't won a single game. Okay, that's bad. That's not a good thing, but I guess it's to be expected at this early stage. All right, I'm super excited for this new model. This one is actually coming quite close to winning, right? I guess it has 7 shipyards and 400 ships, so it could have easily sent out more ships to get more reward, but they chose not to. I guess makes sense because it's trying to optimize for surviving, right? Hopefully, it's gonna chance upon taking the mine action here and then somehow get more ore. That's yeah, I feel like our reward is still pretty much prefers building ship than mining core, so it's not able to make that leap of faith yet. I have to think of some clever way to engineer our reward function for that to happen, or which could just be we need to train more iterations. A good number I have in mind is 1 million iterations. So now you can see we're only 50k iterations in. So that's actually quite little, right? 50k to 1 million, it's about let's see, times 2 times 10. Okay, 20. We need to do 20 times more training, 19 times more training for it to become decently good. Yeah, but hey, so far it's doing pretty well. Yeah, I guess that's towards the end of the stream. I guess we're doing fine on this. I'm just gonna keep this training, and then we'll see how it goes in a few hours, and what other improvements we can make in the next stream. All right, that's the end for this stream. I'm very glad that we got a stable baseline V1, and potentially this is V2. So yeah, we're gonna check out how this run 53 is gonna work out in the next stream.